morning to our viewers on the West Coast and good evening to our viewers in Tehran. I'm Nick Kosar in Washington, D.C. and you are watching Iranistas. Yesterday afternoon, millions of people in Iran were watching the third live presidential debates between the six candidates who were approved by the Guardian Council. I'm now here with Banafsheh Zand in New York and we'll talk about this debate. Banafsheh, how do you evaluate this final debate?
امروز کسانی که میخوان تولید کار کنن مثل کارخانه‌داران ما، سرمایه گذاران ما، امروز اینها واقعا تحت فشارن. تحت فشار همون بحثایی که از قبل کردیم مثل کالای قاچاق و ارز.
I'm with Banafsheh Zand in New York. Banafsheh, how do you evaluate this third presidential debate?
It was pretty exciting given the fact that it was the very last one. The six members, or the six candidates, I should say, got together and lots of fur was flying, I should say. I should like to reiterate the fact that all of the candidates have been picked by the Guardian Council, which is a 12-member organization, if you will, or arm of the Islamic regime in Iran, that basically oversees things like the election. And so it's not like the candidates are necessarily voted for by party line or by an elected primary, if you would, the way it occurs in actual republics. So basically, these are hand-selected by the elders of the Islamic regime, and they are put there for people to basically vote for the last two. The other four are really more for show. And so basically at this point, it looks like it's boiling down pretty much between Rouhani and Raisi.
And one of the candidates who was attacking Rouhani and Jahangiri was Ghalibaf. And he tried to show them as corrupt officials.
Yes. What's interesting about Ghalibaf, excuse me, I've written everything down and I'm looking over my notes as I talk to our viewers. Ghalibaf who has been the mayor of Tehran for the last 12 years, is also the nephew of the supreme leader's wife. He is known for his rampant corruption and for his astronomical wealth through real estate dealings and various other business things that he has with the Revolutionary Guards, as he is one of the members of the Revolutionary Guards himself. This is the third time he's running for office. He has been unsuccessful, obviously. And what's interesting is that during the last week or 10 days, there were rumors, though now it seems maybe they were unsubstantiated, but there was definitely word going around that the elders of the Islamic regime had sort of tried to pressure him to get him to drop out in favor of Raisi. One of the funny things that happened too was that yesterday he had a rally in Tehran, and his supporters who got together and were cheering him on at the rally were chanting, "Golden-haired beauty, you are our president." So, of course, that came off as a bit funny and jocular, but that's kind of the way that the fan base of Ghalibaf's reacts to his popularity, or to popularity. Whatever.
Of course, as you can see from the videos, he's going to be bald in the near future. So there's going to be no hair over there.
I should say one of the things I also enjoyed was that where everywhere else in the West, for example, the U.S., after, I guess, Occupy Wall Street, maybe this the one percenters became sort of a famous title for the super rich. In Iran, it's the 4 percenters. So it's not 99 percenters who are the poor, who are disenfranchised and underprivileged. It's 96% because the top 4% of the regime itself are the super rich and multi-millionaires, if not billionaires.
But at the very same time, people working for his campaign and also Raisi's campaign are attacking Rouhani for being the copier or the copier-in-chief who has used material from other people's research and books for his university thesis. And what's happening is that a group of students are running an online campaign demanding the Scottish government and the university University of Glasgow Caledonian, to investigate Rouhani's thesis and the use of other people's work. Though, as we know, the university is supporting Rouhani and claiming that there are no signs of plagiarism.
I don't think that's going to happen, though, because it appears that Glasgow Caledonian has very much stood by Rouhani and has balked at the idea that his thesis was plagiarized. They've claimed in an article that's coming out in the London Sunday Times, they've claimed that they haven't basically found any signs of plagiarism or copying of anything in his thesis text. So at this juncture, that just sort of remains an ongoing argument, it seems, with the public versus Glasgow Caledonian.
And one interesting thing about Rouhani's thesis is that based on the research of these students who have used the software called Authenticate, they have found out that 82% of the 4th chapter of his thesis is totally a translation of a book of an Ayatollah who's a member of the Assembly of Experts. And the first 2 chapters you can find around 30% of copying of others' articles and books. And the interesting point is that Rouhani himself, who has claimed that he has attended the school in Scotland, was at the same time an MP in Iran, vice speaker of the Majlis, the parliament, and the head of the National Security Council. And as you know, he was the head of the Center for Strategic Research under the title of Dr. Rouhani years before he received his PhD.
And I think that was one of the things that they've in last days, his opponents have taken him to task and sort of demanded that be looked into because he was getting the paycheck of a PhD, in other words. So that has definitely become a serious topic of scrutiny that Rouhani is having to endure these days, although he himself hasn't really responded or made any comments.
In an interview, he was asked about this, actually, and he claimed that he was a graduate of a very well-respected and well-credited university. But when university students and members of different social networks looked into the ratings of Glasgow Caledonian, and the funny thing is that the Ministry of Higher Education in Iran had requested students not to go to this university in the 1990s. And Rouhani was a PhD student of the same university.
I'd like to talk about Raisi a little bit because, he's now supposedly, or as we know it, the main opponent that Rouhani faces. And he, as we explained for our viewers last week, is a person with a very black report card. This is a person who has been in charge of the judiciary, has had high ranks in the judiciary of the Islamic regime. He is somebody who is known for his involvement in some of the most heinous summary executions, namely the one in summer of 1988, when several thousand Iranian members of the Mujahideen Khalq, also known as the MEK, as well as some Iranian Marxists, were executed. And he was also a part and parcel of the group that basically quashed the university uprisings of 1999, and has basically got his, and has basically earned himself a reputation as somebody who is particularly harsh and hands down extremely severe and brutal sentences. Now, he, in his speech, as the moderator was asking each one of these candidates questions, didn't seem to have much of a plan as a president. He seemed to be winging it, and the answers that he was providing to the questions that were being put to him were sort of vague, and so he was covering up with a sort of a serious tone that bordered on angry and a little bit attempting to be firm and tough. But underneath it all, you could see that this is a person who is not prepared for the job and is probably just going to be more a figurehead than Rouhani, in that Rouhani is a person, whether we like him or not, who has had a number of years of experience in negotiating with international governments and foreign leaders. He attempted the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which was the Iran deal that Obama and John Kerry put forth. And, he has that kind of a background, whereas Raisi simply does not. And so you can sort of feel the form that his presidency will take, and that means that he will be there basically as a figurehead, as a symbol of presidency, but that really the orders will specifically come down on every level, whether it's economic, whether it's environmental, foreign policy, anything of the ilk that is done under the heading of a president per se, that Rouhani has attempted, unsuccessfully I may add, Raisi will most likely not be able to do, and he will have basically treated and Raisi will basically be more of a puppet to the various handlers of the supreme leader.
At the end of the debate, Rouhani, in a way, begged for people's vote, promising them that he is going to remove all the sanctions against the Islamic Republic. And that's such a vague promise, because he doesn't have any control over the Revolutionary Guards. He doesn't have any control over intelligence forces that are not under the Ministry of Intelligence and are connected to the leadership. And he has no control over Iran's Quds force and its influence in the Middle East and as well in South America. And making such promises without having any influence over those bodies makes some people who are aware of the situation a little bit like Mr. Comey's situation when he was talking about the Clinton emails.
کپی برداری های ناشیانه نکنیم. یه جایی توی یه کشوری